Welcome back to No Plot Only Lore. This week brought to you by subscriptions. Everything's subscriptions now.
Healthcare is a subscription that you're freaking.
Mm-hmm.
You can. I'm just trying to think of basic necessities you can subscribe to right now. Everything from food, shelter, clothing,
Yep.
Oxygen for sure.
Water.
All entertainment is now subscription based.
All entertainment is subscription based.
Yeah. And
one-
if you meet the right girl,
the one that made me realize that we were slowly sliding into a dystopian subscription hell was when Adobe, and this was so many years ago now, but Adobe started charging monthly for their software instead of just being able to buy it outright.
yeah, trying to subvert
And
your God-given right to steal it from them.
I mean, it didn't work, but the whole thing of just like owning a piece of software
Right.
was very useful for me because I could like move it across multiple computers and I could use it on multiple computers. Now you need to have like a different license for like every place that you use it. Like I wouldn't be able to use an Adobe license at work the same way that I do at home. And that's some bullshit. And so I still use Adobe Photoshop CS5, which I bought with my own real money in a hard disk version and then ripped the shit out of so that I can use it wherever I want forever.
As you should, because you like. I can't believe there's been a capitalist war waged against the idea of like ownership or like rights to own or repair things that you have purchased. Like, I was and continue to be a very strong proponent of like anti-streaming like music ownership. I was a holdout on CDs and iPods for a very long time. I still like, as much as the iPod doesn't exist really as a separate device anymore, that's still the primary function of my cell phone is like holding all of my music anytime I want. I don't have a Spotify subscription. I don't pay for Tidal or whatever else is out there. I accidentally have a YouTube streaming subscription just because I wanted YouTube Premium, and they just bundled it in. But yeah, I very much have been pro. First of all, like it's just better for the artists to buy things and then they get a bigger portion of it. But also, I've always hated the idea of the lack of control of digital media. I mean, as much control as I have over an MP3 that exists on my hard drive, I have more control over like a Blu-ray or a record or what have you in that way. And I knew early on from like the TOS with iTunes where it was like, hey, yeah, you bought this thing, but at any point in time, we could just decide to take it off of our system and you just don't have access to it anymore, So I'm not shocked that that's bleeded out elsewhere.
Yeah, we saw that recently in the animation world. So there's a series that I quite liked and that Thor quite liked called Infinity Train that was only available on Cartoon Network and then moved on to like Warner Brothers' other streaming services and was no longer being shown on TV. And just kind of unceremoniously, they deleted it.
Yep.
It's gone. You will never see it again unless you're pirating it. And the creator of the show came out and said, just steal it wherever you can. Like, enjoy the art that I made.
Obviously, he wants people to see his work as much as possible, right? And if the only way to do that is through quote unquote theft, then go right ahead. I mean, at this point, I would say like that is his to do with because they've decided that they don't want to have it anywhere anymore. But yeah, no, we see it happen with Netflix, and when they decide that your favorite show is going to be rotated out, or it's region locked, or some other BS like this fake digital, what's the word for it? Scarcity, a fake scarcity just created in order to drive, well, in their minds, drive sales, but in reality, drive piracy.
Can you imagine how pissed off he would be? Because this has never happened to me. I've never actually like purchased a like rental or like purchased a specific piece of media on a streaming service, but like I cannot even imagine how pissed off I would be if I paid real Canadian dollars for an episode of the Lord of the Rings series on Amazon, and then they deleted it, I would be fucking livid. I would be flipping tables. I would be so mad. They would never get another dollar. Like,
that's the entire like raging thrust behind the Stop Killing Games movement right now. It's I purchased a game. I understand that you guys decided to shut down the servers because it wasn't like you were losing money on it, but I should have a right to find a way to play my game. Either, doing what as a bad example, doing what Darkest Dungeon did when they're like, "Oh, we can't make this happen anymore. Here's the files. Like, just do what you want," right? Like that. I understand the situation is totally different, but having the right to make your own private server should be something that happens for a live service game or an online required game.
Well, look at how popular EverQuest still is.
Yeah.
Right, because they still have private servers for EverQuest. So how do you feel about your D&D subscription?
I've never paid for one, and I will never pay for one. Period. End of story.
I did pay for D&D Beyond for a little while.
Okay.
Just because I wanted access to their digital tabletop for a bit during the COVID times, and like trying to figure out how to play digitally, and then found better options.
Immediately.
Other platforms. But
coming from 4th edition, where I had a full functional character builder that was given to me for free and updated like constantly, them telling me to pay for anything more than like level 5 on my base model paladin was insane to me.
Well, and then like even before that, we had a like absolutely god awful 3.5 character generator that I think was made in Visual Basic. Like, it was so janky and nasty and weird to use, but it was still free, and it came in as a CD that was in the back of the book.
Yep. I I understand what they've been trying to do. Warhammer 40K has digital tools available for army builder and things like that certain portions of it are paid services, but the reality for them is if you buy the book, you get a code and you get the digital copy for free, right? And then you have access to the full army builder with whatever books that you have paid for unlocked. The difference is you can only save one army at a time, right? Which is like, whatever, man. Like, that's cool for me. I only need one. And it's everything.
As a creator, as a person who makes stuff, I think that, and as a person who writes stuff, I think that probably the best way to look at it is like, when I am buying a book, I am not buying the physical pages of that book. I'm buying the information that's in it.
Yes.
Right. And so the method of conveyance means very little to me as a consumer, right? Like, I'm perfectly happy reading a book on a screen, perfectly happy reading a book in my hands. Doesn't matter to me either way. I also believe that audiobooks are reading, and I know that we're going to fight about that later.
Whatever.
But like, however the information is getting into my brain pan, that's what I care about.
Right.
And so when I buy a physical book, and I mean that for fiction, I mean that for role-playing games, I mean that for literally any kind of book, a fucking instruction manual, anything, I should get a digital copy of it for free.
Yeah, I'm of the generation that backed up CDs, by ripping a digital copy, because, hey, like the technology that I use to consume the information or the product or the art that I already own shouldn't matter. Like you said, I'm buying the content of that book. I'm not buying access to the physical book or what have you. So whether it's my actual book or a scanned PDF rip or a digital platform that uploads all that information, it should be the same. And I shouldn't have to parse out payments between them. And that's what really pissed me off about D&D Beyond, is that like they wanted you to pay piecemeal for all of the information that you already had in the book to get a more convenient version. And then it wasn't more convenient. And then it crashed into work all the time. So...
All right. And so how do you feel about the gatekeeping of that information behind I want to call it a subscription service, but like D&D announced on March 3rd that they are going to be moving to a seasonal release schedule for their products, for their like accessories. So you'll have like new books, and that'll be like propped up with new dice and new DM screens and like all of that jazz going forward.
So
how are we feeling about that?
There are certain parts of it that are they just make sense. I mean, if you're going to have, in theory, an eternal product, you need to have some sort of driving mechanism for new purchases. If you're not putting out, like, because the other side of it is to be Warhammer and put out a new edition every 2 years. And yeah, we're on what, 11th edition 40K? Like, it's insane. And that's not a joke. We're at least on 10th edition, right? That's as much as you can say, like, the product itself changed heavily from 1st to 3rd edition. The same could not be said after like 5th edition. Like, the radical changes have not been there, and I think you could get away with doing, like, they do these things sometimes called like the General's Handbook, where it's just like some updates for the tournament scene, some slight balancing changes. They put out some releases that are like, oh, by the way, we made these tweaks to these point values or what have you for like competitive balance. But you need, if you're not going to do those big updates like that every couple of years, where you have to release a new version of Space Marines every 20 minutes, the seasonal lineup makes sense. Okay, we've built our framework for this game, what used to be called 1D&D, the idea that it's like, hey, we're never going to have to make another edition of this because we've defined what D&D involves mechanically and thematically, and now we're just going to have new content updates. In the same way that frickin' Hearthstone and Overwatch have seasonal updates, like, you need some new activity every so often to drive purchases. I understand that. I understand the theming of, like, now, regardless of the timing on them, but the idea of a theme of like, okay, this is the horror season, the magic season, the champion season. That's
April to June, very traditionally spooky season.
Yeah. I'm just saying,
definitely when you want to get your horror content out there.
It makes sense if you want to have releases that come out at a certain time frame drive certain flavors or themes of product.
Right.
And
well, it reminds me of Magic.
Yeah.
Like it reminds me of the release schedules that Magic was running, where you had a very clear publication deadline. You had an idea of what to expect when.
Yeah.
And I mean, Magic kind of was the forefront of the, like, buying a subscription to your game mentality. Like, right. if you were looking at playing in Standard for any time when Standard was relevant, then you had to have the newest sets, or you wouldn't be able to play, right? Because your old sets would rotate out. We were talking a little bit about, like, the design imperative behind the editions.
Right.
And that, like, I don't know that D&D is done, but I also don't know if this edition is the one. I guess.
Like, okay. I guess the biggest fundamental difference in how those two games specifically are able to approach this is that Magic the Gathering, as far as like a rules framework, has been very similar from the start of the game till now. There's been some minor updates, but overall the framework's the same, and they are just able to add iterations on new game pieces for the game, as opposed to having to sort of reinvent the whole game itself like D&D has had to. Now, that for Magic, that's afforded them the ability to work within, like, let's say the block structure, where not only were you releasing mechanically similar edition or releases with your different sets, but they were able to then extend that into storytelling through the whole block, right? Right. And then as soon as they got away from that, a lot of that went out the window, and now you have 7 sets coming out in a year and no through line on them.
Well, it kind of reminds me of something that D&D did in the early days. Mm-hmm. So, like, in the 1980s, 1990s, which isn't like the early days, but like early for me, there was a group called the RPGA that had organized play content that they would release on a fairly regular basis, and it was region locked in ways, right? So like everybody was representative of a specific region within the Greyhawk universe. I remember Alberta being like some duchy in the middle of nowhere that I was kind of disappointed about.
Because that's Canada. Large stretches of land in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, pretty much. But you would go through the campaign, and then you would send the results of the campaign to the RPGA, and the RPGA would keep track of your like organized play sanctioned character and the like achievements that you had done so far and like the story, and they would like tailor the next additions to like what people had done within the game and stuff. And I thought that was really cool, but also like a huge amount of work and not a lot of payoff.
I mean, I guess it depends how you define payoff. Like it, because there was the organized play stuff that happened in 4th edition as well, where it was like, hey, let's run some store level stuff that has, ongoing effects throughout the few months we'll be running this particular adventure, and then we'll use like aggregate results of the adventure to determine the overall story. Like that level of investment, I think, definitely drove a lot of sales of people being like, yeah, I'm still invested in this game and I want to pick up the new stuff and make my character better, et cetera, or just keep interacting with the game outside of like my friend group that might be, that might have its own interpersonal conflicts that often drive people out of the game, right? So I think it was smart on their part to do something more globally focused like that.
It was good for acquisition too, right? Like, new players would see people playing on Wednesdays, and like people who had never played D&D before, they would see other people playing D&D, and they'd be like, "Oh, what's this all about?" And then they would come and play, and that was great. And that means that you have new people who are purchasing your product for the first time, and that means that you've got like lifelong investments in the rest of your product if they're the type of person who will buy it forever like I am. So like I don't have any real issue with the idea of like organized play. I do feel like this move is a little predatory.
I mean, like, it's weird that, so you mentioned that, and this feels, I mean, it's ironic that it's happening at Wizards too, but this feels like something that happened with Magic before as well, where like the non-value adding organized play part of it, like what was the name for the Magic one there? DCI.
The DCI?
Yeah. The DCI gets disbanded. They try to focus less on like professional Magic or competitive Magic. They get rid of, 5th edition gets rid of any of the organized play stuff that the last semblance of which was just hanging on by a thread. And then both games are now like, hey, let's just like try to figure out a way to pump out as much content as we can, as quickly as we can. Like, it seems like this is the Hasbro effect at Wizards of the Coast. And
yeah, I mean, they're the only subsidiary that is consistently making money.
Yeah. We've got the golden goose. Let's fucking strangle it. Right?
Yeah. So that's definitely part of it. But I think like I worry that a portion of it is like predating on fear of missing out.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Like push people to buy new stuff.
Yeah. The inherent constraints of a season are like the season's coming to an end. You got to get this now before it's gone, right? If you don't complete your D&D battle pass, you might never unlock your golden Taroka deck or whatever. Like, am I wrong? I 100%,
no, you're not wrong. I
100% see a world where as soon as the season of horror is done, you cannot purchase these maps or this particular set of dice or whatever.
Oh no, I can absolutely see that for the like the Dungeon Master screen and like all of the accessories and stuff. I just have like a visceral and physical reaction to the term D&D Battle Pass.
Yeah.
God damn.
It's vile and disgusting, but like that's my role on the pod, is to like just open the kimono and be like, look at this ugly fucking thing.
So I have seen some more positive reactions to it than my initial.
Sure.
I mean, I just kind of have broad skepticism about Wizards of the Coast in general at this point. Like, I think that they've proven themselves antagonistic to gamers.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. They despise their player base.
Yeah. Like, until you open your wallet, they don't give a shit about you at all. And then as soon as you're done paying for stuff, they're like, get the fuck out of here, you nerd.
I think they view people who just purchase the books and dice and then never interact with them again as like freeloaders or something.
I almost see it the other way. Like, I think that they see people who purchase the books and the dice and then never interact with them again as the ideal person, right? Because they show up, they buy stuff, they leave Wizards alone.
No. I'm saying the person who bought the core books and never, like, they bought no supplements, they don't pay for D&D Beyond, they're just like, yep, I bought my book, go away.
Yeah, those people need to be dragged out into the street and have the money beaten out of them like some sort of money piñata.
Yeah.
But no, I think that, like, Wizards of the Coast has proven itself to not care about the experience of normal gamers, but it could be a unifying experience for players, right? Like, it could have some of the same level of interactivity as some of the organized play stuff did, where you have, like, multiple people going through a similar experience that is metered out at the same time, right?
Sure.
Like, you get that water cooler moment for something like Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody binges Stranger Things, and then you sit around the water cooler being like, "Oh, that was so cool when they did the D&D thing, except it wasn't at all like the D&D thing, and nobody's going to talk about that."
Well, it's okay. The way I see it is that it could be akin to, like, if you ever talk to, like, some of the RPG old heads, and it's like, oh, have you ever run the Tomb of Horrors? And it's like, you sit there and you talk about everyone's individual experiences with this legendary adventure. Or, oh, have you guys ever done, like, Strahd or whatever? And then you talk about Strahd's castle and things like that. If you can get that sort of experience happening parceled out on a weekly basis, where it's like more of our community is experiencing the same interesting twists and turns and stuff like that at the same time, and anticipating the same things at the same time, that's a really cool community building experience. And I hope this does drive more, like, organized play through them. I just don't know. Like you said, I don't trust them to do things smart.
Well, like, one of the things that I am seeing is that, like, the speculation and theory crafting side of it, right? Like, already people are starting to talk about the stuff that's happening in the horror realm of things, right? Like the horror releases. And I think we've got a couple of the releases done already. I honestly haven't been paying a ton of attention to Dungeons and Dragons as, like, a property.
I never do.
Recently.
As much as I like it and play it, like, I've taken a break for the last few months once our campaign wrapped up, and I have not let anything leak into my day-to-day. So it was like, I just need a clean break for a bit.
For about as long as this has been happening, my life has been consumed with editing sumo podcasts. So, like, I don't really have a lot of time for, like, delving into the Dungeons and Dragons.
You say that like I also don't have to write and perform those sumo podcasts.
But yeah, so, like, I don't know what products have actually released already, but I do have seen on, like, Reddit and some of the forums, people are starting to, like, discuss what might be coming in future releases and, like, what types of things we can expect from future seasons. And there are people who are generally and genuinely excited about this idea. And, like, maybe it is going to provide something of an easier entry point for people, where, like, you have the start of a season, so you're like, hey, we're just starting, like, a brand new, like, first edition campaign that's going to go through the next, like, 3 months. Why don't you hop on, right? Like, it gives you that, like, same jumping on point that the organized play did. I don't know if it's going to be as organized, though.
No, sure, but I could see, like, using the narrower focus of that particular season as a way to, like, help, like, reduce the noise that comes from, like, here, this is the entire breadth of Dungeons and Dragons, you could do anything you want, and then, like, that analysis paralysis just hits, and it's like, oh, I can't do it. And then it's like, oh no, like, we're focusing on high magic systems now. Let's run a campaign set in a Fogwarts school, and I'm just what Strixhaven, is that their version now? I don't know what the official party line is, but just something like that where it's like, hey, we now already have a theme that you can sort of hop on board with, and you don't have to like. I think using the organized play format could definitely reduce some of the intimidation factor when it's like, oh, I want to get into this myself. I don't know where to start. I gotta go find someone who's hopefully not a psychopath to like take me in under their wing and help me join it. Like even me as an experienced player looking on like a local D&D Facebook group or something for new, almost like no, there's no way. Every one of those has been a disaster.
I've met entirely too many people who play D&D to trust the dice on that one.
Yeah. This is definitely one of those you gotta like ask around for referrals, like a friend of a friend situation every time.
Like also like met some of the best people in my life through this like platform, but have met some weirdos too.
Yeah. For every one of me, there's an Ian. So
I like Ian.
I like Ian too, but you can't pretend that guy's not a freaking weirdo.
Yeah, okay. I do like the idea that like these seasons do potentially open the door to bringing back old settings.
Yeah.
Right? Like the first one seems to be like Strahd-based Ravenloft, bring back the
classics,
the old school horror stuff. So like when you're doing the season of champions in October, which, you know, we all associate October with being champions, I guess. You could look at Greyhawk.
Yep.
Right.
I was going to say.
Yeah, like that. It's a really solid setting for that, and nobody's touched Greyhawk in a minute.
Yep.
Like Eberron has had a couple of releases recently, but like you could do Planescape.
Yep.
Right.
Hey,
bring back a Planescape thing for the Magic season.
Global warming cranks up. You got a season of Dark Sun. Like it's just like, hey.
Oh no.
But no, you're right. It is a great way to like relaunch, you know, older settings that haven't been around a while, or ones that just haven't gotten their time in the spotlight. I mean, you could, you know, over the course of like a 2 or 3 year stretch of time, you can cycle back through areas, and like there's lots of different realms within there's also different areas within the Forgotten Realms that you can explore. Like you know, whether you're focusing on Icewind Dale or the Sword Coast or things like that, like they can be very thematic in their own right. And let people do the deep dive that they don't always get when it's like you're just thrown into, you know, Joe Schmo's personal campaign that he like kind of mentioned Baldur's Gate one time and was like, anyways, over to the east, and then you're gone, right? So I think
number of times I've run Eberron games that never leave Sharn.
Well, yeah,
a lot,
and I like the idea that it sort of has this possibility of like fleshing out the world and making it, you know, if you're not going to be rehashing the same thing every 10 years with a new edition, then using this to sort of like, you know, delve deeper and spread the lore wider and you know, shine lights into those areas that they've kind of had in the dark for a while. Like I think that's a positive.
It also opens the door to dread continuity, like the idea that you can evolve those worlds over time. Like you release a season that's all set in Greyhawk, 2 years later you release a new one that's 2 years in the future from the season that you did before. And so the things that happened in that season have some effect on the world that is now like moving along in time, which is something they've kind of played with before but have never really done so successfully. So it does kind of open the door to that. I do wonder how much of this is just like a reaction to Critical Role. Right? Like they put out their game. They haven't really been supporting it with like a media push as much since its release.
Yeah, I've been kind of shocked at how like lukewarm the reception to Daggerheart has been after the amount of hype that there was, and it's just like big hype, big release, and then we'll just like not talk about it. Like I pay attention to a fair amount of like tabletop content, like through shorts on YouTube and other things like that, and like, man, people just aren't talking about Daggerheart like at all,
which is so weird to me because like it seems like a good game. Like I wouldn't mind playing it. I'm not going to spend the amount of money that the main book costs at the moment because I don't have like a set group for it. But,
no,
like maybe that's the problem, right? Is that like there isn't an audience for that other than people who are already invested in Critical Role,
right?
But like, and the other part of it would be like the internal changes, because there's been so much upheaval in the Wizards of the Coast crew because so many of them recently went to go and work at Critical Role.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, like, given the big names that Critical Role pulled out of the team at D&D, like, that's, I mean, on the one hand, you think it's kind of a bad sign for D&D. Oh, all of your best people are, but on the other hand, removing some of those like entrenched ideas at the company could really open them up for them to take bigger swings with stuff like this, where it's like, well, look, it's not like we're, you know, actively competing against Daggerheart in the same way, because if they're just going to take our guys who have their same old ideas and go try a couple things over there, let's just do the complete opposite. Like, let's just see what kind of limits we can push with our own system.
Yeah, and I think like this move is part of that, and is part of, I think, a longer conversation that has been happening with Wizards of the Coast that I think even goes back to the issues that they were having with the SRD and like the licensing stuff that they were doing recently. Like that feels like a precursor to this,
right?
Like the licensing issues, and then the D&D Beyond changes. And now this, all of it feels like it's been steps along the road. And so I do have some concerns going forward about the way that Wizards of the Coast is going to be trying to narrow down and guardrail the D&D experience and like how people are able to engage with that. Based on the way that they release information. Because, like, again, you have that fear of missing out, where if you didn't start at the beginning of the season, everybody else is talking spoilers about the stuff that you're about to do.
Right. I'll take a different mentality about it. My hope for this would be that they have realized that they let some of the best storytelling and character work be done by people who they can't control, and now they've realized that what they need to be doing is telling some of those stories themselves and building that within their system and using that to get their customers to focus less on these other outside entities and more inside to their own groups and their own play experiences, and not just watching D&D, but experiencing and playing D&D for themselves. And that will lead them to being more loyal to the Wizards brand and D&D itself versus loyal to their favorite shows, right? And leave them less susceptible to something like Daggerheart coming along and stealing a chunk of their player base.
And it can all be yours for 12 easy payments of $39.99.
What do you mean 12 payments? Infinite payments.
Infinite pay. Well, I was going for a year, but yeah.
Yeah, no, they don't want you for 1 year. They want you for life.
Hey, thanks for making it all the way through this episode of No Plot Only Lore. If you're looking for more, you can always find us at noplotonlylore.com and on all the very best podcast platforms. If you like what you heard today, please share, rate, and review the show to feed my never-ending need for attention and validation.